All right, today we're going to be taking a look at what might just be my favorite dress watch that I've come across. And the thing that makes it such a great dress watch, I think, is because I actually found myself wearing it a lot. Today we're going to take a look at the Zirkel from Sternglas. Let's check it out. So dress watches are actually one of my favorite kinds of watches, and I have a number of them in my collection. And one of the things that I think I started to realize after reviewing this Zirkel and having the time to spend some time with it on the wrist is, I think the best dress watch a lot of times is the one that you actually wear. Let me kind of give you an example. I love this dress watch. This is a watch from Orient that I picked up. It's a very beautiful watch, very elegant looking, and it's a perfect dress watch. It's the kind of thing that I would love to wear to like a really festive occasion, like a wedding or some kind of a party or something like that, where I'm dressing up. And it kind of has that feel to it. But I don't do that very often, and in more normal everyday situations, a lot of times I think of this watch as something as being kind of too flashy, too much, too attention-getting, and I don't really want that most of the time. I'd prefer to kind of have something a little bit more subtle on the wrist, and so I don't really actually wear it that often. I think a lot of times with dress watches, that is kind of a concern for me, and this is going to be different for different people, for whatever your personality is. But this Sternglas Zirkel, having it to review for the past few weeks, I found myself grabbing it in all kinds of situations and never having that fear. And it's just such a simple, elegant, beautiful watch. I think it's the kind of thing that is not going to get noticed from across the room, but if someone gets up a little bit closer, they can really appreciate it and appreciate the details. And I think that just makes it such a great, perfect kind of everyday dress watch. It's the kind of thing that will match with almost anything that you're wearing. It's the kind of thing you don't have to worry about it, clashing or being too attention-getting, but it's the kind of thing that you can really appreciate yourself. And so for me, I'm starting to think that something along these lines, this sort of Bauhaus inspired, style watch, really would make the perfect kind of dress watch for me, in that it's probably the kind that I would wear more than almost any other dress watch out there. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of it. I do want to thank Sternglas for sending this watch in for review. It was one that I actually contacted them and asked if they would be willing to send me one for review, and they graciously offered to give me one that I could keep for review purposes. So big thanks to them, and also just letting you guys know that this is a watch that I get to keep after the review is done. So Sternglas is a micro brand based out of Germany, and as you might expect from a German micro brand, they've made a Bauhaus watch to be sort of their bread and butter and their main focus of their line of watches. They've got now, they started on Kickstarter a few years back, but now they've got a whole range of watches, ranging from quartz watches to some of these higher end automatic pieces using the Miyota 9015 movement. I think their product that they're delivering is a great value. I don't think there's many true German designed Bauhaus watches in this price range that are offering this level of quality and components. So I really appreciate what they're doing there. Their watches are not super affordable, but they're pretty affordable for what they offer, and I think they do present a really good deal. And we're looking at the Zirkel today being kind of on the higher end of what their line of watches are. This one has the Miyota 9015 automatic movement inside of it, sapphire crystal, all the high-end stuff that you would expect. So let's go ahead and get in and take a look at what the Zirkel offers you for your money. So dimensions and specifications, you're looking at a 40 millimeter diameter case with 20 millimeter lug openings for your straps, a slightly long 49 millimeter lug to lug width on the watch, so a little bit longer than you would normally find on 40 millimeter case because those lugs are kind of long and they're protruding out. The height is 12 millimeters, including the domed sapphire crystal. They have the case height listed as about 10 millimeters, but that does not include the domed sapphire crystal in there. And you are obviously getting a domed sapphire, double domed sapphire crystal that does have 2 layers of anti-reflective coating. However, despite that, there does seem to be a lot of reflections coming out of this watch. So you'll kind of see that as we go through the review. It's kind of difficult to film this at angles without getting any reflections in it. Inside, you're getting the Miyota 9015 movement, which is Miyota's high-end movement, featuring hacking, hand winding, and a smoother 2800 beats per hour beat rate that gives the second hand a really appealing, smooth sweep to it. Also, this is a thinner movement than you would typically find from the entry-level offerings from Seiko, like on the NH35 or on Miyota's 8200 series movements, which allows them to get that really slim case height, which I think is another great feature of this watch that really kind of distinguishes it from some of the other ones in this price range. Price that they're asking is $450, which I think is a decent price for what you're getting. I think to get this Bauhaus design with that Miyota 9015 movement, sapphire crystal, slim case like that, it's going to be difficult to find a less expensive watch that's going to have these kinds of specs and design to it. As noted, Sternglas is a German company, and so they do have some of that German design heritage behind it, and I think that's one of the most appealing features of this watch. I really love the simple Bauhaus design that they have here. I love the German type that they have on everything. The case back also is printed in German text. So the dial design is very minimal, but I think they did a really good job of balancing kind of the right amount of text and open space on the watch. It doesn't look sparse by any means, and yet at the same time they have just enough information on the watch to get you what you need to be able to really easily tell the time without cluttering things up. The hour markers are printed in Arabics that are very small and yet very cleanly and crisply printed, so it allows the watch to be read very easily. You have these nice, long, thin hands, and one of the things that I really like about them is the handset is that there's this kind of brushed finish on them, and they really catch the light in interesting ways. It actually has a lot of depth to it and a lot more complexity than you might expect. Same can be said for the finishing of the case as a whole. You're getting some very nice brushwork along the sides of the case. The crown is very nicely done as well with a good knurling on it, so it's very easy to grip and set for winding. Has a very kind of industrial look to it, which I think really looks cool on this design. The date on the dial I think is really well integrated. It's color matched to the color of the dial and just has a really subtle beveled edge to it, so it really sits in there well, and I think it just looks really good, especially at the 6 o'clock position, really preserving the symmetry there. The Miyota 9015 movement has performed really well for me. Mine's running at about plus 12 seconds fast per day, which is well within the 10 to 30 second rating that Miyota claims for this. It's really, the movement is lightly decorated and pleasing to look at. The strap is a full grain Italian leather strap. It feels extremely supple and comfortable and very simple. It really matches with the minimal design of the watch. You don't see any visible stitching anywhere on the strap. And I think it's just a perfect pairing. The hardware is great. You're getting a signed buckle on it. Throwing it on my 7.5-inch wrist, you can see how it wears. And again, you'll notice that the lugs are fairly long for a 40mm watch, which does give it a little bit more wrist presence, but that may be a little bit of a concern for people with smaller wrists. Also a bit of a concern, as you can see, right now I have it all the way on the tightest notch on the strap, and again I have a 7.5-inch wrist. It's a little bit tight right now, so if you like your watch snug and you have anything smaller than a 7.5-inch wrist, the strap very well could be too large for you. So that's kind of curious. I would have expected them to have the ability for the strap to go tighter. But yeah, if you have a 7.5-inch wrist or smaller, you might start to run into some issues with this strap. The strap does, however, feature quick release spring bars, so it is easy to swap out to other straps, and the minimal style of the watch I think really lends it well to a wide variety of straps that you can put on this watch. All right, so what do I think of the Zirkel? Well, like I said in the intro, I think in for me, this is kind of like my perfect everyday dress watch. If I was the kind of guy who was wearing a dress watch every day and I just wanted to get one good, decent watch, this I think would be a great one to invest in. This is the kind of thing that'll go well in an office environment. It'll go well on more formal occasions. You can wear it on more casual occasions too, and it just works. It's just such a great, clean design, and it's the kind of thing that I think as you wear it, you really appreciate that Bauhaus design that's in it, and then as well as just the design and the build quality of it. There's a lot for you to appreciate. Again, with it being something a little bit more simple and understated, that's not going to really be this big attention-grabbing watch. So if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, if that's the style that you want, I think this is a great option for it. So talking about the pros first, again, I think first the biggest thing is that design. It's just such a clean, simple design. I love that this watch is dressy, but it's not flashy. I love that it's simple, but it's not boring. It's just, again, it's just really working a really great balance of, I think, what a good everyday dress watch should be. One of my favorite parts of it is the handset. I love the brush texture on the hands. It's just such a simple, clean look, and yet it's really interesting, and it really is noticeable, particularly in sunlight and different lighting situations where you get it glinting off there. I think they did a great job with that one. And lastly, one small thing that I really liked about it is just the date on it. I think that matching the color of the date and just the way that they've put a nice little bevel in there, it just looks really good on the dial, and I think they did a great job on that one. So looking at some of the things that I didn't like as much, there was nothing huge. There's nothing that really stood out as like a major design issue. Probably the biggest question that I had about it, and the thing that I had the most hesitations about, is the amount of reflections that you get off of that domed sapphire crystal. It was never to the point where I had trouble reading it, but it was also always noticeable. No matter what lighting or where I was, I could always see a reflection in the dial, and sometimes that kind of annoyed me. Other times I found it kind of interesting and beautiful, but I think overall I would have preferred if they could have done a flat sapphire crystal and tried to cut off some of the reflections. They do have 2 layers of anti-reflective coating, but it doesn't seem like it was quite enough because there are still quite a few reflections on there. But again, never to the point where I couldn't read the dial. It was just a little bit distracting. Another drawback to having that domed sapphire crystal is that it does make the watch a little bit thicker, and a thin watch I think is one of their big strengths that they had on this. The case is really thin on this. They had it just under 10 millimeters thick, and so if they would have had a flat crystal on top of it, the whole watch would have been pretty close to 10 millimeters. As it is, it's closer to 12, and I think that's kind of a missed opportunity. For this being sort of a dress watch style, I would have liked to see it a little bit thinner, make it a little bit easier to slip under a cuff. But yeah, it's sort of a trade-off. The domed sapphire crystal does look great, but I think the doming in this case to me is more of a con than a plus, but it's it is a design choice that they made. The lugs are pretty long. It's part of that style. I've seen a lot of other Bauhaus style watches sort of employ that. And that's not necessarily a con, but it's something that you may or may not like. Sometimes it kind of wears a little bit awkwardly, I think, because of that. But yeah, again, I think this is more of a design issue than an actual negative to the watch. And then one other thing to be aware of is that the strap is really long. In fact, I've got about a 7.5-inch wrist, and I think I'm on the second to tightest notch on it. So if you have a small wrist, the strap might be too small for you, and that's definitely something to consider. So to wrap all this up, again, I think this is a great everyday dress watch. I think the price that they're asking for it is really good. I'm not aware of many other competitors in this price range. I think if you want to go, up to $1,000 or more, there's some other Bauhaus style watches that you can get that will probably, offer more heritage and some, better build quality. But in this like sub $500 price range, to get an actual German designed Bauhaus style watch, with sapphire crystal and Miyota 9015 movement, high-end, high-beat movement like that, you're not going to find a lot of options there. And so I think that this is a great offering. And again, it's something that I would really be attracted to, particularly if I was wearing a dress watch every day and I wanted a daily dress watch, because I think this is one of the best options I've ever seen for someone who likes the dress watch style and they want something that they can wear every day, not just for special occasions, not just something that's really flashy and blingy, but something that is simple but enjoyable at the same time. But let me know what you guys think. Is this the kind of thing that you guys would wear? Do you think it's worth it for the price? And what do you think of a Bauhaus watch in general? Leave a comment for me down below. Always love hearing from you guys. And yeah, until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.